She was stopped at the entrance of the showroom just because she wore jeans and walked in from the bus stop. A salesman said loudly, "Are you looking for the restroom or did you get lost?" When she asked for the price of the new electric flagship, they mocked her. "Are you asking for fun or do you actually plan to buy one?" A passing VIP customer scoffed. "She looks like a car wash worker who wandered into the display area." None of them knew the woman they just dismissed was actually the largest shareholder of the entire global electric car empire. Olivia Bennett stood there, her scuffed sneakers gripping the polished marble floor, her faded jeans and plain t-shirt a quiet defiance in the glitzy Los Angeles luxury car showroom. At 31, her beauty was understated, bare face, no makeup, her dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail that swayed with each step. The air was heavy with the scent of new leather and the electric buzz of anticipation for the launch of a revolutionary electric vehicle line. Olivia carried a worn canvas tote, its straps frayed from years of use, her expression serene, her movements measured. To the sales staff, the VIP customers and the media swarming the event, she looked like an intruder, a curious wanderer, maybe a lost delivery driver. They didn't see the steel in her spine, the unshakable authority in her calm, steady gaze. The showroom was a dazzling arena of wealth and ambition, managers in bespoke suits, sales staff flashing polished smiles, VIPs draped in designer labels and reporters capturing the sleek, futuristic cars on camera. Everyone was there to flex their status, their voices loud with talk of exclusive deals, high-profile investments, and elite connections. Olivia didn't belong in their world. She didn't strut or boast, didn't drop names or flash credentials. She slipped in quietly, her steps soft, her presence almost ghostly. That made her a target. From the moment she crossed the threshold, the whispers began cutting jabs about her thrift store clothes, her lack of glamour, her audacity to stand among the industry's elite. They didn't know she held the reins of their entire empire in her hands. "Hey, before we dive deeper into what happened, can you do me a quick favor? Grab your phone, hit that like button, drop a comment below, maybe just say where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep stories like Olivia's out there shining a light on what she faced and how she flipped the script. It's a small thing, but it means the world to share this truth with folks who've been judged and kept pushing forward." All right, let's dive back in. The humiliation struck fast, sharp, like a whip cracking in the showroom's polished air. A young salesman named Brad, with slicked back hair and a suit that screamed overambition, blocked Olivia's path near a gleaming electric sedan. "Ma'am," he said, his voice loud enough to draw nearby eyes, "these cars are booked a year out. Asking about prices is just going to waste your time." A woman named Claire, a VIP customer in a tailored blazer and oversized sunglasses that hid half her face, overheard and let out a sharp laugh. She probably thought this was a rental office, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. The sales staff nearby snickered, their gazes raking over Olivia's jeans, her sneakers, her frayed tote. Olivia's fingers tightened slightly on her bag's strap, her face calm, her eyes steady. "I'm here for the car," she said, her voice low, clear slicing through the chuckles. Brad's smirk held firm, but the room's laughter stung like a fresh cut. The cruelty didn't pause, it surged, each jab more biting than the last. During a product demo, Olivia stood near a massive display screen showcasing the car's cutting-edge battery technology. A salesman named Ryan, a cocky type with a booming laugh and a habit of name-dropping his celebrity clients, leaned over to a colleague and said, "Check her out, acting like she gets this stuff. Bet she's here for the free coffee." A tech bro named Ethan, sporting a flashy gold chain and a permanent smirk, joined in. "She's probably Googling electric car on her flip phone," he said loud enough for the crowd to turn and laugh. Olivia's hand paused on her tote, her eyes sweeping the group, but her expression remained unshaken. "I know the specs," she said, her voice steady, cutting through the giggles like a blade. Ryan's laugh faltered, but the crowd's mockery rolled on cold and relentless. The bullying turned vicious during a guided tour for VIPs when Olivia lingered near a prototype model, her fingers brushing the edge of its sleek hood. A saleswoman named Natalie, with a sharp bob and a knack for fawning over wealthy clients, noticed and snapped, "Excuse me, this area is for serious buyers only. The public display's over there." A hedge fund manager named Victor, with a booming voice and a gold watch that glinted under the showroom lights, overheard and chuckled. "She looks like she's here to apply for a janitor gig," he said, his tone sharp as a knife. The group erupted in laughter, their eyes dissecting Olivia's scuffed sneakers, her plain t-shirt. Olivia adjusted her tote, her movements deliberate, her gaze locking onto Natalie's. "I'm here for the prototype," she said, her voice calm, unwavering. Natalie's smile tightened, but the crowd's laughter was a suffocating weight pressing down hard. Then came a moment that cracked the showroom's smug facade. Olivia approached the chief engineer, a reserved man named Alan with wire-rimmed glasses and a nervous tick of adjusting his tie. She spoke softly, her words inaudible to the buzzing crowd, and handed him a plain business card, its edges slightly worn. Alan's face drained of color, his hands trembling as he read it. He shot a glance at Olivia, then bolted toward the showroom director, a portly man named Richard, his whispers frantic, almost panicked. Richard's jaw dropped, his eyes darting to Olivia, but the sales staff remained oblivious, their chatter unbroken. Brad, hovering nearby, muttered to Jenna, a saleswoman with perfect makeup. "She's probably bluffing, acting like she knows someone big." Olivia stood by the car, her face serene, her tote swaying gently. The whispers around her shifted, less mocking, more uneasy, like a tide beginning to turn. The mockery didn't relent, it grew sharper, more personal. During a cocktail hour for elite customers, Olivia stood near a bar table sipping water from a plain glass, her tote resting at her feet. A junior saleswoman named Carly, all fake charm, and a habit of currying favor with VIPs, spotted her and said, "Hey miss, the free drinks are over there. Don't mess up the setup." A wealthy couple dressed in designer threads overheard and laughed. "She probably thinks it's a fast food menu," the woman named Sophia said, her tone venomous as she adjusted her diamond bracelet. The group cackled, their eyes raking over Olivia's tote, its frayed straps a stark contrast to their glittering accessories. Olivia set her glass down, her movements slow, her gaze meeting Carly's. "I'm not here for free drinks," she said, her voice calm, clear, slicing through the laughter. Carly's chuckle choked off, but the crowd's mockery clung to the air like smoke. A twist ignited like a spark in dry grass. A senior executive named Tom, a gruff man with a no-nonsense demeanor and a reputation for ruthless decisions, approached Olivia near the flagship model, his polished shoes clicking on the marble floor. He spoke to her quietly, his voice low and respectful, then escorted her to a private meeting room, the glass door sealing them off from the showroom's clamor. The crowd hummed with gossip, mid-level managers like Greg, a wiry man with a loud voice muttering, "Who's she cozying up to for that kind of access?" Jenna, her perfect makeup masking a scowl, whispered to Brad, "Probably begged for a pity meeting." Minutes later, Olivia returned, her steps steady, and Tom handed her the keys to the flagship model himself. "Take it for a spin, Ms. Bennett," he said, his voice carrying across the room, silencing the chatter. Olivia slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life with a low, powerful hum. The crowd froze, sales staff exchanging uneasy glances, their smugness fraying like cheap thread. The humiliation didn't ease, it cut deeper, more brazenly. As Olivia stepped out of the car after her test drive, the engine still warm, a salesman named Kevin, a wiry guy with fake charm and a habit of overselling to impress clients, approached her. "Nice joyride, huh?" he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, loud enough for the nearby crowd to hear. "Now let's get you to the financing office, unless you're just here for the thrill." A wealthy female client named Victoria, in a shimmering gown and dripping with diamonds, glided over and laughed sharply. "She should stick to toy models for her coffee table," she said, her tone slicing through the air like a razor. The crowd chuckled, their eyes raking over Olivia's faded jeans, her scuffed sneakers, her lack of flash. Olivia handed the keys to Tom, her movements precise, her gaze locking onto Kevin's. "I don't need financing," she said, her voice calm, clear, piercing the laughter. Kevin's smirk held, but the room's mockery burned like a fresh wound. The bullying surged during a showroom showcase when Greg led a group of elite clients through a roped-off section featuring a concept car. Olivia paused near the display, her notebook open as she jotted down a detail about the car's sleek lines. Greg spotted her and barked, "Hey miss, don't loiter by the exhibits. These aren't for window shoppers." A reporter named Tara, all sharp heels and a predatory grin, turned her camera toward Olivia and said, "She's probably here for a viral post, girl dreams big on a budget." The group roared, their laughter bouncing off the glass walls, their eyes dissecting Olivia's plain t-shirt, her tote's frayed straps. Olivia closed her notebook, her face calm, her hands steady. "I'm here for the real deal," she said, her voice low, cutting through the noise. Greg's laugh faltered, but the crowd's scorn was a suffocating fog choking the air. A twist flared like a beacon in the chaos. During a technical briefing for select clients, Alan, the chief engineer, pulled Olivia aside to a side room filled with blueprints and a humming prototype battery. His voice was hesitant, almost reverent, as he asked her opinion on a cooling system glitch that had baffled the team for months. Olivia leaned over the schematics, her finger tracing a circuit path, and suggested a radical rerouting that made Alan's eyes widen. It solves it, he stammered loud enough for the engineers to hear his hands shaking as he scribbled her idea. The room buzzed, engineers murmuring their respect palpable. Ryan, lurking near the door, whispered to Natalie, "She's just parroting something she overheard." But the engineers' silence was heavy, their gazes fixed on Olivia with a mix of awe and disbelief, like they'd just witnessed a masterstroke. The pressure kept climbing like a storm brewing on the horizon. During a media tour, Tara stood with a gaggle of reporters near a display screen flashing the car's performance data. She spotted Olivia and called out, her voice loud enough for the cameras to catch. "She's still here. Bet she's waiting for a selfie to post on her budget blog." Lisa, the sharp-tongued junior manager, grinned wickedly. "She's probably dreaming of a job waxing these cars," she said, her tone venomous, her eyes glinting with malice. The group laughed, their gazes slicing through Olivia's plain t-shirt, her tote, her lack of polish. Olivia adjusted her bag, her face serene, her eyes meeting Tara's. "I'm here for more than photos," she said, her voice steady, unyielding. Tara's grin wavered, but the room's cruelty pressed on a relentless tide. Another twist landed when Olivia was summoned to a closed-door meeting with Tom and a select group of board members, their faces etched with urgency, their voices hushed behind frosted glass. The showroom crackled with gossip, Greg muttering to Sarah, a saleswoman, with a loud laugh, "She's got to be pulling some scam to get that kind of pull." Brad smirked, probably sweet-talked her way into a meeting. When Olivia emerged, her steps unhurried, she carried a plain folder, its edges slightly worn. She handed it to Alan, who opened it and froze, his glasses slipping down his nose as he read. He whispered to Tom, whose face paled, his hands clenching the table's edge. The sales staff didn't notice their whispers, still laced with scorn, but the air grew thick, charged with an unspoken shift like a storm about to break. The bullying turned vicious during a customer Q&A session when a salesman named Derek, a loudmouth with a habit of sucking up to VIPs, decided to make Olivia the punchline. As she stood near the back, listening to the CEO's speech about innovation, Derek leaned over to Marcus, a car collector with a gaudy tie and a booming laugh. "Why's she still hanging around?" "Bet she's here for the free snacks," Derek said, his voice carrying across the room. Marcus roared, "She couldn't afford a tire on these cars, let alone the whole thing." The crowd nearby erupted, their eyes darting to Olivia's plain outfit, her tote's frayed straps. Olivia's hands clasped tighter, her face calm but her fingers curled slightly, the only hint of the sting. "I'm here for more than snacks," she said, her voice low, clear, slicing through the laughter. Derek's grin held, but the room's cruelty was a suffocating cloud choking the air. A twist exploded like a thunderclap. The CEO, a tall man named Michael with a commanding presence and a reputation for ruthless efficiency, strode into the showroom, flanked by top executives from the electric vehicle division. His eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Olivia with a flicker of recognition. He walked straight to her, shook her hand firmly, and said loud enough for the room to hear, "Mrs. Bennett, it's an honor to have you here." The showroom froze, jaws dropped, cameras flashed, the air thick with shock. Michael turned to the crowd, his voice resolute. "This is Olivia Bennett, our largest shareholder and the person who signs off on every sales contract and product development strategy." Greg's coffee cup slipped, splashing his suit, his face ashen. Jenna's perfect makeup couldn't hide her panic, her hands trembling. Olivia stood there, her face serene, her tote swaying lightly, her silence louder than any proclamation. The humiliation didn't vanish, it grew bolder as if defiance fueled it. During a break in the Q&A, a saleswoman named Rachel, with a brassy laugh and a relentless drive for commissions, approached Olivia near a display model, her smirk wide. "So you got a fancy title?" she said, her voice carrying across the room. "But you're still just playing dress-up with the big shots, right?" A VIP customer named Henry in a tailored suit and a habit of name-dropping his hedge fund overheard and chuckled. "She's probably a secretary who hit the jackpot," he said, his tone sharp, his eyes raking over Olivia's jeans. The crowd nearby laughed, their gazes pinning Olivia's sneakers, her lack of polish. Olivia set her tote down, her movements deliberate, her eyes locking onto Rachel's. "I'm here to lead," she said, her voice calm, clear, piercing the laughter. Rachel's chuckle died, but the room's scorn was a cold, heavy weight. Another shift roared to life when Olivia was invited to a panel discussion with the executives, her tote resting by her chair as she took her place at the polished table. A reporter named Ethan, with slick hair and a knack for stirring drama, tried to trip her up, his voice smug. "How does someone like you know so much about these cars?" he asked, his tone laced with doubt, the crowd murmuring in anticipation of her stumble. Olivia leaned forward, her eyes steady, and delivered a razor-sharp breakdown of the vehicle's battery efficiency, citing proprietary data that silenced the room. Michael nodded, his face lit with respect, and said Mrs. Bennett co-designed the strategy behind this launch. The crowd gasped, cameras flashing, the sales staff stunned, their faces a mix of awe and shame. Olivia leaned back, her hands resting confidently, her silence a testament to her authority. The bullying reached its zenith when a department head named Stephen, an arrogant man with a booming voice and a habit of steamrolling meetings, tried to seize control of the moment. He stepped forward, his face flushed, his tone defiant, addressing Michael directly. "If she's really a major shareholder, I'll resign on the spot," he said, loud enough for the entire showroom to hear. "We can't let just anyone waltz in here like it's a public park." The crowd murmured, some nodding, their eyes flicking to Olivia's jeans, her sneakers, her unassuming tote. Stephen's smirk was bold, his confidence a fortress. Olivia didn't flinch, her hands still, her gaze meeting his with quiet intensity. "You might want to check your contract," she said, her voice calm, steady, like a pebble dropped in still water. The room went silent, Stephen's smirk crumbling, the tension electric. The ultimate climax detonated when Olivia pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker, her movements unhurried, her face serene. The voice on the line was clear, authoritative, the global chairman of the parent company in Europe, his words resounding through the showroom. "Olivia Bennett is a founding family member," he said, each syllable a hammer strike. "She holds final authority on hiring, firing, and policy decisions for all global operations." The room was silent, cameras flashing, jaws dropping to the marble floor. Michael turned to Stephen, his voice ice cold. "You're fired, effective immediately." He announced a press conference to apologize and name Olivia as the guest of honor. Stephen's face drained of color, his hands shaking as he stumbled out, his bravado shattered. Olivia stood there, her tote in hand, her presence a quiet, unshakable force. The bullying didn't vanish entirely, it lingered bitter and desperate in the shadows. After Michael's announcement, a group of sales staff huddled near the coffee bar, their voices low but venomous. Carly muttered to Paul, "She played us coming in here like a nobody." "That's sneaky." Paul nodded, his fake charm gone, his face twisted. "Bet she got a kick out of making us look like idiots." Olivia overheard as she passed her tote, swinging lightly, her steps steady. She didn't stop, didn't turn, but her hand tightened briefly on the strap. "I didn't play anyone," she said, her voice quiet but piercing like a dart finding its mark. "I showed you who you are." Carly's coffee cup trembled, her face flushing crimson, but the whispers faded as Olivia walked on, her silence a rebuke. A final twist erupted during the press conference when Olivia was invited to speak, her jeans and t-shirt, a stark contrast to the executives' tailored suits. She stood at the podium, her voice steady, outlining a new vision for customer service, transparency, respect, and innovation. A reporter asked about her role in the company's origins, her tone probing. Olivia paused, her eyes steady, and said, "I co-authored the original patent for our battery technology at 19, working late nights in a garage lab." The room gasped, cameras flashing, executives nodding in quiet respect. Michael added, "Her work laid the foundation for this entire launch." The crowd erupted in applause. The sales staff stunned, their faces a mix of awe and shame. Olivia stepped down, her tote in hand, her silence a monument to her strength. The aftermath was swift, quiet, but seismic. Brad was reassigned to a backlot used car dealership, his slick hair no longer a shield for his ego. Jenna faced a formal review, her perfect makeup gone as she scrambled to keep her job, her confidence in tatters. Lisa lost her shot at a promotion, her sharp tongue silenced by a viral video of her snide remarks that spread like wildfire online. Victoria, the wealthy client, was shunned by her social circle after her cruel comments hit the news, her glittering world dimming. The consequences weren't loud or vengeful, they were the truth catching up, the scales balancing with cold precision. The showroom staff lined up to apologize, their faces etched with shame, their voices trembling, but Olivia just nodded, her silence speaking louder than their words. Olivia took her place as the guest of honor at the press conference, her jeans and t-shirt unchanged, her presence a quiet command. She addressed the room, her voice steady, her words resonating like a bell. Treat every customer with respect. You never know who really owns the game. The crowd applauded, cameras flashing, the media crowning her queen of customer justice. The company overhauled its customer service protocol training staff to value every visitor, not just the ones dripping in wealth. The showroom transformed into the most customer-friendly dealership in the U.S. Its reputation rebuilt on the foundation of Olivia's legacy. She didn't gloat, didn't linger to bask in the praise. She walked out, her tote slung over her shoulder, her steps steady, her focus already on the next horizon. The truth about Olivia seeped out piece by tantalizing piece like a puzzle coming together. During a media interview, a reporter noticed her phone's lock screen, a faded photo of her with a man in a pilot's uniform standing by a private jet under a golden sunset. "Who's that?" Tara asked, her curiosity genuine for the first time, her camera lowered. Olivia glanced at the screen, her fingers pausing on her tote, a flicker of warmth crossing her face. "My husband," she said, her voice soft but clear, a private truth shared with the world. No one pressed, but the room shifted like a key turning in a lock. Later, a blogger unearthed an old article, Olivia's maiden name linked to a founding family of the car empire, a dynasty of innovators. Whispers spread, not cruel this time, but awed, reverent. "She's a Bennett." Like the Bennetts. The showroom changed, reborn in the wake of Olivia's stand. New signs went up. "Every customer matters," bold letters etched in steel above the entrance. Staff were retrained, their smiles now genuine, their judgments left at the door, their old arrogance, a fading memory. Olivia's name wasn't on the signs, but her influence was unmistakable, woven into every interaction, every handshake, every sale. She became a quiet legend, the woman who'd walked into a fortress of egos and toppled it with grace. Customers began sharing their own stories, moments of dismissal, judgment, disrespect at dealerships across the country. Olivia listened, nodded, sometimes offered a quiet word of advice, her presence a beacon for those who'd been overlooked. She didn't lead with a megaphone or a spotlight. She led with her actions, her integrity, her unshakable strength. One humid afternoon, Olivia returned to the showroom, her tote slung over her shoulder to check on the new protocols. A young saleswoman named Mia, barely a month into the job, approached her, her hands twisting nervously, her voice shaky. "I heard what you did," Mia said, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. "I've been scared to call out some stuff here. Some of the old attitudes are still around. Can you help?" Olivia set her tote down on a nearby table, her gaze steady locking onto Mia's with quiet resolve. "Write it down," she said, her voice calm but firm, a promise in each word. "Every detail, every name. I'll go with you to HR." Mia's shoulders relaxed, a small, grateful smile breaking through her nerves. Olivia didn't smile back, but her nod was a vow. Things were different now, and she'd make sure they stayed that way. Then her husband arrived, the moment like a quiet crescendo in the showroom's fading hum. It was late, the space nearly empty, just a few staff tidying up under the soft glow of overhead lights. James Bennett walked through the glass doors, his suit understated but impeccably cut, his presence calm yet commanding like a storm held in check. He was a billionaire aviation mogul, a name that sent ripples through boardrooms and beyond, his reputation as formidable as his quiet demeanor. The security guard stood straighter, his nod almost a salute, his eyes wide with recognition. James walked to Olivia, who was reviewing a report, her tote resting on a nearby chair. "Ready, Liv," he said, his voice low, warm, carrying a private intimacy that softened the room's edges. She looked up, a small, private smile curving her lips, and slung her tote over her shoulder. The few staff left froze. Brad now, a low-level clerk, fumbled with a stack of papers, his face paling. Jenna, grabbing her purse, stopped mid-step, her breath catching. Lisa looked away, her face ashen, her hands trembling. Olivia and James walked out together, her steps matching his in a quiet rhythm, her tote swinging lightly at her side. No one spoke, but the air was thick with realization, heavy with the weight of truth unveiled. Olivia wasn't just a shareholder, she was a force, a woman who'd walked through a gauntlet of scorn and reshaped an industry with her quiet, unrelenting strength. The mockers saw it now, their apologies too late, their egos humbled into dust. Olivia didn't look back, didn't need to. Her truth was etched into the showroom's new soul, her legacy carved in every respectful nod, every changed policy, every story of justice she'd sparked. The empire was hers, not because she owned it, but because she'd earned it step by steady step. The industry felt the shockwaves. Articles hailed Olivia as the queen of customer justice, her story rippling through dealerships nationwide, a clarion call for change. Never judge a customer by their clothes, one headline proclaimed. The quiet one might own the company. Olivia didn't read the articles, didn't chase the spotlight or the praise. She kept moving forward, her tote in hand, her focus locked on the next challenge, the next injustice to right. The pain of those first moments in the showroom, the searing sting of every insult had faded, replaced by something unbreakable, a legacy that no one could touch, a truth that shone brighter than any diamond in that glittering crowd. She stood up when no one expected it. Took the hits, carried the weight, and changed the game. You felt that, haven't you? The burn of being judged, the quiet fight to prove you're enough. Olivia's story is for anyone who's been pushed down and kept walking. You're not alone. She wasn't either. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and hit follow to walk with me through heartbreak, betrayal, and finally healing.